at 6:36 p.m. Someone's speaker is on. It's okay. Are we set now? Great. Okay. For all you folks at home, I apologize for the technical difficulties we had getting started. Unusual combination of different members having trouble getting logged on for some reason. Um, I'll mention a few meeting logistics. Anyone who's joining remotely, we would appreciate that you would change your name display to your first and last name so we know who we're talking to and who's talking to us. When you speak, again, we ask you to start by stating your name and where you live. We ask you to keep your questions or comments at any point in the meeting to 3 minutes. And if you're here to speak about a specific agenda item, we ask you to keep your comments germane to that topic. Anyone who wishes to speak must be called on by the mayor. And once you are called on, you may speak or ask questions, but keep to the point and limit your comments to 3 minutes. If you speak out of turn, discuss non-germane topics, go on too long, etc., you may be reminded to bring yourself back into compliance. The first item on the agenda is to approve the agenda, and I assume the agenda is approved. Next item is general business and appearances. This is an opportunity for any member of the public to address the council on any topic that is not on tonight's agenda. Again, we ask you to keep any of your comments on this topic in this area to 3 minutes. Now, starting in the room, is there anyone in the room who'd like to be recognized?
Hi, Steve Whitaker. I'm going to again remind you relentlessly that the folks that are outside need to be have a warm place to stay out of the, it's near freezing, it's deadly weather, and you're leaving folks outside. City Hall was open probably, I'm presuming it was because the locks weren't programmed for President's Day, more so than it was any compassionate decision by city officials. That shows how low our confidence has gotten. Public records, the appeal is still pending related to Troll and Tammy's related emails. I think Jack's got some emails that haven't been produced. I think Zach has some emails that Frazier is aware of. But y'all are flying in the face of the law, and for a lawyer to do it is noteworthy. The signs, I mentioned the signs that got knocked down by the snowplow, the $250,000 worth of wayfinding signs. One is in front of Filibusters, one's in front of TD Bank, or the former TD Bank, right here on a corner of State and Main. Those are expensive and heavy signs. The fact that they were only anchored 1.5 inches into the sidewalk tells me that it wasn't done properly. Imagine that. The icicles, I raised the issue of who's responsible to get the hazardous 100-pound, 200-pound ice that's going to hit the sidewalk and pivot into windows or into persons. And is it a city responsibility? If so, we're not doing it. The city plows are running Main Street, are plowing in the driveways, leaving a 3-foot barrier of snow blocking the people from leaving their driveway. And that's not okay. And either you've got to have the sidewalk plow out at night working alongside the truck plows to clear driveways, but you can't just plow people in where they can't, get out of their driveways. The railroad comes through and plows their railroad and reblocks our sidewalk. And these are easy to fix things in a properly managed town. Trash receptacles, I learned last night, the planning commission was asked to vote with no documentation or plan for this $200,000 grant application for compacting trash receptacles, but no plan, no documents of where they're going to go or how we're going to replace the ones we lost 1.5 years ago in the flood. And meanwhile, the lack of or the overflowing few remaining receptacles is being used as the rationale to get these potentially new high maintenance compacting receptacles. But for the planning commission to not even see a document on it and just say, sure, whatever, and now it's going to come to y'all as a grant application, you should scrutinize it a bit further. The planning commission set a public hearing on the plan, but ignored the fact that the plan doesn't meet many of the statutory requirements, and went ahead and adopted a document that Mike Miller wrote, saying that it does, as if we were living in the Trump world here. So that, I guess, can wait until it comes to y'all, but you would be wise. I'm still trying to get an option in session law that would allow us, if we wake up and realize we're not going to get a growth center or TIF district any other way, it would allow us to get a second new town center to support resilience. If you talk to Perchlik tomorrow morning, you could probably still get it in the Budget Adjustment Act, but it's not binding. All it says is Montpelier may apply for this concurrent with a growth center if they so choose. It doesn't, nothing binding or constricting about it. It just keeps the option open. Right now, it's not allowed under statute, and we will miss the October deadline.
Thanks, Steve. I just heard about that about half an hour ago, so I'll be following up on that.
Thanks.
Sir, are you also looking to be recognized?
Hi, my name is Jacob Sargent. I live at 14 Franklin Street, Montpelier. Part of what's going on is a lack of code enforcement and a lack of any sort of enforcement of business owners. They get away with literal murder. I'm going to just give you a little thing over the last 2 days. I spent President's Day and Tuesday literally shoveling out a whole snowbank because my landlord said that my father is very handicapped. He has a ramp to get in and out. The landlord literally put a snowbank in front of it, and when I went out to say, hey, please don't do that, I have to literally shovel out a snowbank, he flipped me off and said it was none of his problems. And when I called the police, the dispatcher and the officer, well, there's no laws against being cruel to cripples. What do you want me to charge him with? Obstruction of property, kidnapping, anything? Nope. It's okay. It's okay. I got up this morning and my dog was severely sick. I literally called the Humane Society, the veterinary hospital, just begging them. I didn't have quite enough money. I literally get paid Friday, by the way. I'm begging them. I'm hoping them. He died in my arms this morning. I'm sorry. I'm very upset. No change is going to come from the federal because it's destroyed. There's no help coming from the state house because they're too busy trying to cover their own butts, hoping that maybe and pray if they act like Republicans a little bit more that they won't come for them. But we all know there are. We need some sort of laws come right here. Just like trickle down economics, that doesn't work. Trickle down change isn't going to work. It has to start right here. There has to be some sort of laws against literally letting animals die, letting people be cruel to cripples. And it's okay as long as everybody's covered. I literally had police officers harassing my whole family, making up stuff and this. And when I say call to get the police chief, even said, "Hey, the officer that was cruel to your father and this, and there'll be an investigation." Literally a day later, she stops my mother saying she ran a stop sign, which again she probably did, but she's like, "No, you made eye contact with her and did it deliberately." And when it's okay. The mayor wrote my mother an email telling him it's okay. He didn't know about it. His ass was covered. I'm sorry I'm taking up time, but I'm just very upset. There needs to be some sort of change or some sort of consequences for these business owners. And I don't mean Capitol Grounds. I don't mean the Book Garden. I'm talking about these pseudo monopolies, especially in the real estate sector, that have so much control over our lives. I know it doesn't seem like I'm sure you guys care, at least in the mundane, but it doesn't quite affect you guys like it does some of us on the ground. It's going to start. There's going to be a whole bunch of homeless people that don't know how to be homeless people because they're used to getting 30 to 60 grand a year and they're gone. It's all gone.
Thank
I
you. Thank you for
believe you.
coming in.
I'm sorry.
Sorry to hear
Please
about your dog.
start making laws that say you can't be cruel to cripples. Please tell laws that say you can't just let animals die in people's arms.
Thank you. Zach,
Um, whoops.
nope.
Hello, you guys there?
We are, Zach.
Hello?
Zach, are you good?
Okay, I'm gonna give this a try.
Okay.
Um, am I gonna be able to speak on the item on the agenda at all, or should I do my comments here, or how does that work?
There is going to be a council vote, and I will open that topic up to public comment.
Okay, thank you. I will use this comment for a couple things then. I want to give a shout out to all the staff for the city, including committee staffers for their hard work, helping us on the committees and other stuff. And Bill, and I also want to commend the DPW folks who are out keeping our city safe as far as sanitary and water stuff. As many know, we lost water over here last weekend, and yeah, it's just amazing. The weather was bad. I just want to throw that out there. Lastly, I was reading the police logs, and I did notice there was an entry that people had that there was a complaint about folks, transients hanging out in front of City Hall as it was closing. Um, just want to remind folks that there's nowhere for folks to go. And, and until we figure that out, we're going to have that issue. Plus, that bus stop is there at 6 for the overflow shelter. Okay, that's all I have for now. Thank you.
Thanks, Zach. All right. Next, we are up for the, oh, I'm sorry, Stan, go ahead.
Thank you, Mayor. I realize that there is an item on this agenda that's very similar to this, but I wanted to just ask here, could someone clarify from council on last week when we voted before the executive session, Councilor Heaney said he wished to vote to not renew the contract. After executive session, Sal made a similar motion, but included a date of June 30th. Could council clarify where the June 30th date came from? And if that was a date that was provided by at the manager's request or the council's request? It wasn't really made clear if the contract was only not renewed or terminated. And I think there's some lack of clarity in the community around which one of those two occurred. I was hoping council could clarify if there was in fact a termination or where the date came from. Thank you.
Okay. Thanks, Stan. I believe that may come up in the discussion of the agenda item. And so I'll just move to that unless there's anyone else in the public seeking to be recognized. And right now I'm not seeing any hands, but I just want to be sure. Okay. Not seeing any hands raised, so I am going to move to item 5 on the agenda, ratification of the separation agreement between the city manager and the city of Montpelier. Understandably, there have been a lot of questions raised about why the decision was made, what the considerations were, why the city council acted as it did. My own view and is that I don't have the ability to speak for the council. We do not have, and it's a complicated thing. If we wanted to produce a council statement setting forth what happened, that would have to be done at a meeting of the council. That is not, in my view, a realistic option, although other people may disagree. However, it's also clear to me that that every member of the council has the right, without disclosing the confidential communications in our executive session. Every member of the council has the right to speak in public and state their reasons for their vote and how they decided to vote. And in fact, in my view, I think that it is probably council members' duty to the members of the city to say why they chose the way they did. And with that, we can proceed with the discussion of item number 5, consideration of ratification of the settlement agreement. The separation agreement, I'm sorry, the separation agreement is in the council packet. And I'll open the discussion up first to members of the council. Lauren.
Thank you. So after voting yes on the contract that council and the city manager negotiated last week to effectively demonstrate that council and the city manager had come to an agreement on terms, I plan to vote no tonight to register my disappointment with how the process played out. We have a city manager who has served our community for close to 30 years. And in my 6 years on council, I found Bill to be an engaged, thoughtful, and caring manager who took really seriously the problems in our community and worked diligently to recommend solutions. And those of us serving on council have known for a while that Bill planned to retire soon. He's been telling us this and getting us ready for this transition for several years. I do not believe we on council, and I'm including myself in this, did enough upfront to work with Bill to identify a retirement date that worked for him and for the community. And instead, council pursued a process that led to the separation agreement and severance package that is being approved tonight. And by taking this approach, it means that rather than working with Bill to retire as planned, we've now divided the community around how it was handled. We've cost taxpayers around $250,000, something that's really hard to stomach after a brutal budget season where numerous positions and significant funding was cut from important community services. And we've made this transition more difficult for Bill and our city staff. And I know people wanted to see a transition in leadership, some people, and I understand that. And this transition was coming because Bill has been telling us he planned to step down soon. So what's done is done. So I just hope that moving forward, the council and community can learn from this process, can strive to have more open and transparent communication earlier and more often, something that I believe I should have done better during this process. I think we should aim to share concerns in constructive and collaborative ways, always be treating each other with dignity and respect so we can avoid unnecessarily divisive and costly outcomes for the community. Especially right now with so much national disunity, I think we need to just take extra care in how we treat each other in our own community. And, you know, we've been through some really challenging years, the pandemic, flooding, significant budget shortfalls. We have a chaotic and destructive federal administration that's going to make every challenge we're facing worse. And so I'm just really calling on the community to step up to support our city staff and show appreciation. They work so hard, literally day and night, to keep our community safe and thriving. I want to thank Bill for his many years of service. I wish him all the best. I know he cares deeply about our community and has worked incredibly hard to contribute toward making this the city we all love. And I also know a new city manager is going to face the same set of intractable, long-term, complex, and expensive problems we face today. And I just hope Montpelier residents will be prepared to show patience and grace to a new city manager. Solutions will take time and energy, and I hope people will lean into creativity and positive collaboration and will support our city government during this transition. Thanks.
Thanks, Lauren. Carrie.
So the separation agreement that's before us, I think it's a fair agreement, and I appreciate the time and thought that went into it. I'm also going to vote no, however, and this is because I don't wish to see Bill terminated, and I never have. I've always been in favor of giving Bill the respect of retiring on his own terms, on his own timeline, which we knew he was working on. I never thought that forcing him to leave by not renewing his contract was reasonable, necessary, or appropriate. But it became clear to me that I was in a minority on the city council in that opinion. And so I tried to focus on creating the best plan for his departure as possible, including keeping him in City Hall until the end of the fiscal year and preserving the severance package that his contract entitles him to. I voted in favor of not renewing his contract last week out of a sense that somehow council unity would be better for the city and for the whole process and would ensure that Bill would be granted at least a modicum of respect through a decent separation agreement. I think that was a mistake, and I want to make it clear now that I think Bill has done an outstanding job and should have been allowed to retire on his own schedule. In my time serving on city council, I've had the opportunity to see up close the incredible depth of knowledge, expertise, integrity, and dedication to the people of Montpelier that Bill has. He's proactive, resourceful, and creative in his approaches to city management. He's responsive and accessible, and he's unwavering in his commitment to good government. We've been incredibly fortunate to have had Bill as our city manager, and he deserves our thanks and respect. Forcing him to leave under the circumstances of not renewing his contract is not only deeply disrespectful and undeserved, but has also created an unnecessarily difficult situation for the city. We now will have to spend hundreds of thousands of dollars that we would otherwise have saved. And we've lost the opportunity to have a smooth, well-planned transition to a new city manager. I'm grateful that Bill will stay on through the fiscal year to help with that transition, and I'm beyond grateful for all his service over the past 30 years.
Thanks, Carrie. Any other, Adrian?
So I am the newest counselor. This is my first year, and I ran on the platform of being committed to really new leadership in our city. I strongly believe in term limits. I feel like term limits in our government are very, very important. We look at our Supreme Court. We look at, how that has ended up and where we are right now. Term limits really prevents entrenched power. It encourages fresh ideas and innovation. I feel that it increases public participation. It reduces the influence of special interests. It also improves accountability and performance. It prevents any political stagnation. It encourages leadership development. I feel that it is a time for change. 30 years, in my opinion, is too long for someone to be in a leadership position in our government. This is not a personal decision. This is a business decision. I know many of our community feel deeply connected to Bill, but I am here to look at the future of our city and respect the wishes of my constituents. That is my job as a city councilor. And I feel like that is a pivotal moment in our city's history to look at the horizon and look at the projects that we are going to be undertaking over the next 10 years. I want someone with fresh views, fresh leadership, fresh ideas. I hope that our city embraces a new city manager. I do not like this divisiveness that has happened in our city because we made a decision to not renew. And I think there's a lot of misconceptions about this process out there. And I do not like when people lie or have misfacts. I think it really, really hurts our city. We were handed this contract. This was written by the previous council that we were given. And the terms of this contract provide a golden parachute. So we had a decision to make by March 1st. It was either to renew, to not renew, or to terminate. And I was very much in the favor of not renewing. I tried to have a conversation and to have an open dialogue. I was not privy to any conversations last year about retirement. It's not fair. And I was just closed out of those conversations. And I don't think that is fair for council to not have that information to make an educated, data-driven decision when we asked for information, to have an open dialogue, to be respectful, to have empathy and kindness for a public servant who has been in this position for 30 years. And in the end, I will vote to not renew this contract. I will vote for this severance package, which is it for a city manager. This is unfortunately not common. It is called a golden parachute for a reason. And it is a lot of money, but this is what we were presented. We cannot change this contract. Even if we decided to avoid the March 1st deadline, he still could have taken this severance package. There are facts that we really could not have worked around. And I will vote to not renew his contract, which we did last week. I will vote for the severance package because that is what we were given by previous council. That's what they voted for in order to support Bill's contract. And so that is where I am in my opinion. So thank you very much. I hope we can all move forward together and work together as a community to be solutions focused, to work on getting a new manager in place, and for everyone to be positive and forward thinking. Thank you.
Thanks, Adrian. Anybody else? Tim?
Maybe repeat a few things that Adrian said and clarify, sorry. So the contract that's in place with the city manager required that the city council make a decision by March 1, 2025, whether the contract will be renewed, extended, or terminated on March 1, 2026. 1 year notice is built into the contract. And the decision that the council needed to make could only be one of those three choices. The council voted to not renew the contract. Non-renewal or termination of the contract, as well as termination from employment, resulted in payment of the same severance package. If the council refused to act, as Adrian indicated, and just let the contract expire, the employee could invoke another provision of the contract that would have triggered payment of the same severance package. This contract contains a clause that provides the employee with a severance package in several circumstances, including non-renewal of the contract or termination, et cetera. So we were working with a contract that's been in place for a number of years that we didn't create. And we responded to what we had to do in the contract in terms of making a decision. And the decision we made is why we're where we are today. I do support the severance package. It's a piece that we were obliged to do through the contract and that we agreed to do. So I will support.
Any other members of the Palin?
Yeah, I didn't prepare any statement, but I just want to highlight that I've been working over 20 years in public sector. Now I started to work for a public college. I have never seen any contract like that. Never, ever. So unfortunately, this contract didn't give us, as a city council, too much choice to do things differently. And I know that some people are upset with the amount of money in the severance package. But as Councillor Gillen Heaney said, whatever we decide, this money will be there. So we will be paying. And I know that we cannot reveal any discussions happen in the executive session. And I respect that idea, but I think it puts City Council in a very, very difficult position. And I understand when we accept to serve for Montpelier, we accept to take the responsibility to be transparent for our residents. That's why from the beginning, I reach out to City Council and Mayor to prepare a statement. It didn't happen. I wish we could have done that, so there will be less misinformation out there. And City Council can explain why we have this severance package. And I had a chance to work with Bill last 2 years, and I thank him for his service and his commitment to Montpelier. And I've been hearing that from different people over 2 years in our monthly sessions, via email and everything. People just want to see some change. And I understand that for some people, change is scary because it reminds us what we are losing. But change also can remind us what we will have as an opportunity. So I just want to see this process, which will give us more opportunities and to create better environment for Montpelier. And we can always move forward and we can always support each other as neighbors, as friends, and also as Montpelier residents. Thank you.
Thank you. Sal, do you have anything to add?
I'm not surprised that there's confusion among the public about the terms of the contract or the severance. I am a little surprised that there's confusion among the council. We had 3 attorneys review the documents, and I think we all know that the severance would be paid one way or the other, whether the contract ran through its full term or whether it was terminated or non-renewed. I supported the non-renewal and I will support the ratification. I've had a good experience working with Bill. I think that things are moving in a direction that require new leadership, however, and so I will support a search for a new manager who will meet the needs of the city in the coming years.
Thanks, Sal. Anyone in the room who'd like to address the council on this topic?
Steve Whitaker again. I'll note, and you did hear from a very competent attorney who was not paid to be there at the last meeting. I think the motion to go into executive session did not include Bill Frazier joining the executive session. You didn't come out of that executive session and create a new one, which invited Bill in, and yet you summoned Bill in the middle of an executive session, probably waiving the confidentiality of the entire executive session thereby. But leave that for paid lawyers to litigate. This and prior city councils have been negligent for a very long time in allowing Bill to continue amending his own contract and feathering his own self-interests. Most recently on the consent agenda in 22, protecting even criminal activity conducted by him. And he did so without an attorney representing himself or the city, and yet the council allowed that to be approved on a consent agenda with no discussion. That is just reckless, improper by every stretch of the imagination. I recall the bungled projects of the district heat, the French's block, the car lot, the transit center, the parking garage, the lies about public records in which Jack joined him in deceiving the public around public records compliance. The accumulation of unfunded infrastructure deficits, well over 100 million, possibly 200 million. And we've allowed the staff to grow to 77 people, costing us over $100,000 a year, many costing over $150,000 a year. And yet he could find none of those to cut in order to make this budget balance. So the accumulation, well, the manipulation, I believe the council has been almost coddled, to not have to do much work because Fraser serves it all up. And all you have to do is approve it. And I don't mean that as an insult to y'all, but I think it's his style is to cow the council in that way. So we need to now focus on a nationwide search, and we need to define the requirements, including Country Club Road, our infrastructure deficits, transparency, and restoring faith and trust in our government.
Thank you. Come on up, Mark.
Hi, my name is Mark Gwynn. I live on Nelson Street in District 2. I'm also a candidate for City Council in District 2. I'm not here to offer any position, criticism, or endorsement one way or another for the decision that was made. I think that decision has been made. What I would like to point out, as I walk around and knock on doors and talk to people in town, they ask me about this. I'm not really in a position to answer them. And I'd love to give them good information, but I honestly don't have it. So I'd like to echo one of the things that that Jack said, which is that I believe that each individual counselor does have the ability to be transparent with the community about what their decision-making process and what they brought there. And I think that that would go a long way towards helping everyone feel informed and feel good about this decision. I do think that the number one important thing that the next council must get right is finding the next city manager. And who that person is obviously is hugely important. But I think that more important than that, perhaps, is how we go about doing it. And whether intentionally or not, we are already beginning to send messages to the world, to our next city manager, and to all the candidates that may come to the door to say what kind of place this will be to work. Are we a council that has the backs of our city staff? Is this a collaborative environment to work in? Is this a tremendous opportunity for the right person to come and have a meaningful and long-lasting impact on the future of this bravest little state capital? So I would just like to encourage everyone to whatever ability you can, without obviously violating confidentiality, to please be transparent and communicative with the community. And if I have a question for you, I would ask, what is it that you can say to the whole town and to all of the candidates who may come and seek this position that will reassure us that this was in fact the right decision at the right time and is leaving the city in a good position to move forward? Thank you for your time.
Thanks, Mark.
My name is short. My name is Jacob Sergent, 14 Montpelier. You know where I live.
14 Franklin Street, right?
Yeah. See, he's got it. I didn't know the man. I've only talked to him a couple times. He seemed admirable and thing, but like I like to base stuff again because I'm not the brightest bulb in the drawer. What I can see, it's wildly mismanaged, and to say any otherwise is disingenuous. Not only can you not articulate why it was, but now you're going to give him again a golden parachute. He'll be fine. Why are you guys all afraid? Are you afraid he's going to sue? Let me assure you, no lawyer wants anything to do with suing any sort of city anywhere. I promise you. And even if you do, I'm pretty sure you still have to get like permission to do that, right? I'm not crazy. Did that change when I wasn't looking? Why do you guys care? He wasn't doing his job, period. Again, just based what I can see. I didn't know the man. He seemed admirable. I have eyes. It's wildly mismanaged. And to say anything other is a lie. Lying to us, lying to yourselves, whatever you want to do it. You did it. Own it. And stop giving him people like him golden parachutes, period.
Thank you. Zach?
Let's see, is this going to work?
Yep, we're hearing you.
Good evening.
And now you're muted.
Good evening. Zach Hughes, Montpelier. Some of y'all already gave me some reassurance. I'm going to change some of my words. because I really was trying to figure out how to come over here tonight and address it. First, I want to start with that I respect the council and its process. And I have been in these positions on nonprofit boards before, and it is not easy. I will say I am deeply concerned after this brutal process of budget cutting, including some services that are going to have to change, that we had to go this route. Are you telling me you couldn't let Bill retire? Is there any reason why that couldn't have been done? Any way you could have gone to make sure that we wouldn't have to pay anything extra? Everybody I've talked to in meeting rooms over the last 2 years have said, we don't have the money, but yet we are doing this decision. This is wrong. And I appreciate change in 30 years. I get it. Probably should have been made 20 years ago then. Don't wait until Bill's getting ready to retire. He's close. Can't you guys have waited? I'm sorry, but I cannot support this. Money? We just don't have it, but we're going to have to pay this out, and Bill deserves it. Believe me, he's done some great work. I think I'm going to agree this is a misguided decision, but I respect every one of you. Thank you.
Thanks, Zach. Stan?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Again, I'm going to ask the same question I started this council session with. Mr. Hughes just shared that he's concerned we terminated the manager's contract and asked why we can't wait. Many folks on Front Porch Forum are asking the same question. Why couldn't we wait until the end of the contract? On Front Porch Forum, Bill asked himself a question. He said, was this non-renewal termination or voluntary termination or some other action? And he has a two-part answer, which is the council chose not to renew my contract and to terminate my employment. Over the last couple of minutes, Councilor Alfano said I support the non-renewal. Councilor Heaney says I voted not to renew the contract. Councilor Gill says I made the decision to not renew the contract. Councilor Brown says I made a mistake to vote against renewing the contract, but I'm grateful that Bill is staying on through the end of the fiscal year. I'm going to again ask the council for clarification on what is the June 30th date, and did council terminate Bill's employment? Did council terminate the contract, or as vocalized, is it simply a contract non-renewal? Thank you.
Thanks, Stan. Bill? And you are muted. You should be able to unmute yourself now. Okay. Still muted. Bill, do you want us to move to the next person while you work on that? Okay, thumbs up. Okay. I'll call on Jim Sheridan and then hopefully you'll be able to.
Actually, it just worked.
Oh, there we are. All right.
Sorry. Apologize for that. I'm using my iPad. I don't usually use this for Zoom. I apologize. Also, I'm sorry I couldn't be with you tonight. As you know, I got a medical thing going on. Otherwise, I would have been there in person. I'm not going to comment at all about what you chose to do or not. There are a couple of pieces, though, I think that need very important clarification because I think, well, I'll just say what I think. Number one, the inference has been given that no matter what happened, I would be paid money. That's not really completely true. If I choose to retire or leave voluntarily, there would be no severance. A golden parachute in corporate world is actually when someone leaves on their own and still gets paid. I get paid for an involuntary separation from service, whether you call it a non-renewal, a termination, or anything else. It's really all the same. And that is what occurred. Again, the words are semantic. The reason for that, and a lot of people don't understand this, is that in Vermont law, for public employees, if we didn't have this provision in the contract, the council would have to, number one, provide a public hearing. Number two, establish that there was just cause for my termination. And then number three, have that decision reviewed by an outside a court or an arbitrator or something like that. And I don't mean to be arrogant or anything, but I'm very familiar with those standards, and there is nothing approaching just cause. And I think even the council, you heard them say it was time for a change. So in exchange for the flexibility to make a change whenever they want, there's a cost with that. I could have actually. So for number one, had to prove the case. Number two, subject to litigation if you don't prove the case, and damages. My contract waived all rights to any hearings, just cause, due process, or anything else. That was a suggestion I made when this came up a number of years ago, and I still was entitled to all those provisions as well as a severance. Happens a lot. People get terminated, they don't have just cause, and they reach a severance agreement. This was set up so that a termination, non-renewal, whatever you want to call it, could be done at the complete discretion of the council. And the money is only spent if the council chooses to spend it. So people, that's all I'm going to say about the technicalities. And that's it. I'll go back to being muted.
Thanks, Bill. Jim.
Yeah, I wanted to wait till everybody had their say. I was a person that sat on the council for 12 years. So I was also on the council that gave Bill this parachute, as you're calling it. I did not vote for it. I did not feel it was right, but I was outvoted 5-1. I sat on a council that, quite frankly, thought that Bill walked on water and was going to give him anything he wanted. I didn't agree with it at all. I don't see why I wasn't for it, but it was done. And, that's the way it is. I could say a lot about Bill, both good and bad. I am fine with the council's decision as a councilor coming in I'm excited to look for a new leader. A lot went down during the 12 years I was there, and I don't really want to rehash the past, but nothing, there were always problems, and sometimes they were the council's problems, sometimes they were Bill's problems. A lot of mistakes were made along the way by everybody, and this is what happens. But I'm ready to see us move on. And I applaud the counselors who made the decision. I know it's a lot of money, but it shouldn't have been worked in there. But I do feel I have to agree with Steve Whitaker. There were times when he feathered his own nest when he had the chance. And I was there watching it. And I didn't like the fact when I first came in that he had a car. He had $100,000 salary. I did my research. $45,000 was the average salary at that time. I said, why do we need to give him a car with that? A lot of people came in, heard what I said, made a big stink about it. They took the car away. Well, the council went right back behind closed doors and just put in a whole bunch of things to make it up. So, like I said, I could tell you more stories than you would want to hear. I could have wrote a book on what I saw in this city. I could have wrote a book on my 2 years in Duxbury, what I saw. So I applaud the council for wanting to move on. It's time to move on. You're gonna have at least 2 new people coming in. I don't know, maybe 3. We'll see what happens, but I'm ready to come in with fresh people there. I know I'm not necessarily gonna be a fresh person, but I've been away for 14 years, so it's gonna be a little different. But I just felt that, it needs to be put out there that things were done. And I don't want to go back into the past and tell you all the stories, but move on. Those of you who don't want it, let it go. You want to talk to me in private sometime? I'll be glad to fill you in on details. Thank you.
Thanks, Jim. Yes, Sal.
I'd just like to say for the record that I'm not aware of any nest feathering. It had nothing to do with my decision. I'm not aware of any criminal activity on a consent agenda, and it had nothing to do with my decision.
Thanks. I see you nodding ahead. I think everybody on the council agrees with that statement. Any other members of the public who'd like to be heard? Stan, in answer to your question, I think the simplest way to answer it, and the contract, I believe, was in the council packet last week, is that a non-renewal is tantamount to a termination, and that's the way it's addressed in the council, in the contract. Has everybody said everything they want to say? If so, the chair would entertain a motion. Tim,
I'll move that we ratify the separation agreement and general release of claims as presented.
is there a second?
I'll second.
Any further discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?
No.
And Lauren, you were a no also, right? Okay, the motion carries. City council reports. Does anybody have anything? Start with your end of the table, Adrian.
Seen today.
Carrie? Tim? Palin?
No report.
Lauren?
Just one thing I wanted to say, like next week, I know that the ballot items are going to be under further discussion, but I'm going to be away and was just really taking to heart the folks who came out last week to City Council sharing how Article 13 is making our Jewish community feel. And so I just wanted to publicly share as a city councilor, I'm voting against Article 13 and encourage others to do the same. And really my reason is simple. Regardless of the intentions of the people who drafted the article, we've heard firsthand at our city council meeting that Jewish members of our community are feeling fear, feeling unwelcome in our community due to this article. So, I believe as a community, we value inclusivity, we value being welcoming to everyone, regardless of their background or faith. And, I oppose anti-Semitism, Islamophobia, all forms of discrimination, and think we should be working to build bridges and connections and not taking actions that just divide our community. So I want all of our community members, including our Palestinian and Jewish neighbors, to feel welcome, seen, valued, and heard in Montpelier. So Article 13, I think, is creating, unfortunately, fear and division for some community members. So I'll vote no and hope others will do the same.
Thanks, Lauren. No mayor's report, city clerk's report.
I'll just quickly say that early voting is started in our office, and so you can come in and vote and get your ballot.
Oh, I wanted to ask, I saw an email from someone asking about mailing out of ballots. This is not about an election where they're going to be mailed out automatically, right?
Yeah, that's right. If you want your ballot mailed out, just give us a call or come in and request it. But we don't do it automatically like the state did for the last election.
Thanks, Sarah. City manager's report.
Nothing at this time. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Having completed our business, we are adjourned at 7:30 p.m. Thank you.